Hi, I'm Stassi Schroeder. On my podcast, I share candid updates from my personal life, chat with some of my best friends about what's going on in our lives, give commentary on the latest pop culture headlines, and sometimes deep dive into random topics I'm obsessed with, like human design. It's a bit all over the place, but that's how I like it. And you will too. Listen to my podcast, Stassi, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 397 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm a little sore from coming off the farm.
Are you?
Yeah.
Been working on the farm?
Oh, yeah.
You're laughing about me playing a video game on the Xbox called Farming Simulator. We were talking about right before we started taping. What we are doing is trying to get out from under about, 8 to 10 inches of snow.
Yeah, there is a lot of snow out there.
So that's been our week. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Leanne Cosson.
Hey, Leanne.
Susanna jumped out to her highest level.
Thank you, Susanna.
Kristen jumped out to her highest level.
Kristen, you're awesome.
Mackenzie.
Hey, Mackenzie.
Anne France Tremage.
Thanks, Tremage.
Allison Gibson.
Hey, Allison.
Amanda Orenberg.
Well, Orenberg, look at that name.
Yeah. Cleaning Princess Pinky McGee.
Well, thanks, Cleaning Princess.
Alana Pitt.
Hey, Alana.
Zinnia.
Zinnia.
And last but not least, April C.
What up, April?
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Anna Harvey.
And that's the rest of the story.
As in Paul Harvey?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. It's a good poll. But we appreciate the new support, the continued support. We also had a great PayPal donation from Scott Kane.
Hey, thanks, Kane.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. Gibbs, right now we have an episode out on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about three teenagers. Two teenagers, a guy and a girl dating, were involved in killing a 16-year-old girl that, the guy used to date. It's a very strange story. It's horrific.
It's troublesome.
Yeah. Did you say troublesome or troublesing?
It's
I think it was a cross between troubling and troublesome, and it came out troublesing.
That's how we say it in Gibbyville.
Is it? But, it's one of those where they don't seem to even know why they did it.
Yeah.
And it's a perplexing case for sure. But make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about the disappearance of Angela Green. Angela Green was last seen in June 2019. Her husband told their daughter she was committed to a psychiatric institution. And then weeks later, he told her daughter that Angela died of a stroke. After months of questioning, Angela's daughter reported her mother missing, which started an investigation that remains unsolved years later. Now, obviously, the father doesn't look good right off the bat.
No, I mean, could you imagine if you were the daughter and this is the story that you got? Be like, okay, mom was committed. Where can I go see her? And then when mom is dead, I'm just finding out and where and how.
But you're never seeing her.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing her body.
Exactly.
Angela Green was 51 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was born in China and was the second daughter of college professors who lived outside Beijing. Angela was a model. In her early adulthood, she maintained a long-distance relationship with an American man named Jeff Green through phone calls and letters. In 1998, Angela moved to the United States on a fiancé visa. She lived with her older sister, Catherine Jo, and her family before the wedding.
So one of the, kind of like a overseas love story.
Not kind of like it. Yeah, it is.
It is.
But you know what I really started to think about was, they're conducting a long distance relationship through phone calls and letters. Very few people do that today.
Very few.
You know how people would conduct a long distance relationship today? I mean, there's FaceTime. There's so many different applications. I know a guy who's friends with my oldest daughter. He and his girlfriend, who lives in another state, they actually watch Netflix together through some type of app.
Okay.
And the app controls the Netflix so that they're both seeing the same movie at the exact same time.
Well, that's kind of cool.
And it's also has a video component to it as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
so they can see each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So they can see the carpet. Yes. So they can see each other. But think about that when you were 17, 18 years old. That would be the stuff of science fiction.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Imagine those people that went through relationships back in the day, long distance relationships where they'd send, like you said, they'd have to send a letter. How tough would it have been to do it that way?
Well, when you're trying to do it through letters, it's a little less instantaneous. First of all, you have to wait for the mail to do its thing.
Right.
Person has to get the letter. They have to read the letter, and then they have to craft a reply. And then you have to wait however long it's going to take to get back to you. Yeah. Now, it's not like the Pony Express days, but still.
It makes me, I just laughing inside. In today's world, if you want to get a little frisky, you probably could through FaceTime or.
Okay, I'm so scared with where this is going.
Even text, right?
Yeah.
I was back in the day with the letters, what would you, hey, baby, and then have to wait for her to reply back with a letter a month later.
By that time, the mood has been gone for 3 days.
Yes.
I do have to be honest with you. I always get scared when you start down a road that starts with, if you want to get frisky.
As well as you should.
Angela became close with her niece, Michelle. Michelle told local news outlet KCTV5, "My aunt and I had a really special bond. When we were younger, we would do crafts together. And she also helped to watch me when my parents were at work. The first couple of months when she was living with my family, we were so close and everything just seemed so great and happy."
You got any good memories with your aunts or an aunt or an uncle?
Yeah, I didn't have any aunts, but I had 2 uncles.
Yeah.
And I do have some really good memories with them. Sadly, they have both passed, but ton of great memories.
Yeah.
They were both really good guys. After the wedding, Angela and Jeff Green moved into a home on Tomahawk Road in Prairie Village, Kansas, where they lived for almost 20 years. Their daughter Ellie was born in 2000. According to KCTV5, Angela became more isolated after the wedding, and that isolation increased after Ellie was born. And that scares me because how many times have we talked about, isolation? Now, we don't know all the details yet because we haven't gotten to them. But when you think isolation, okay, that could be self-imposed.
Could.
But that could also be mandated by your significant other, your spouse. And that's, that controlling aspect is really where we see a lot of the problems.
Yes. When it's enforced?
Yes. It's mandated upon you by, the other person in your life. It's never a good sign.
No.
Now, some people just isolate themselves.
Like yourself?
Like I do.
Yeah.
I'm a self-isolationist.
You are. You were doing COVID stuff before COVID ever came around.
Yeah, COVID, there was no change for me when COVID hit. I didn't leave the basement before. I didn't leave it after. Jeff worked in IT at the federal courthouse in downtown Kansas City. Angela was a stay-at-home mom and rarely left her house. Outside of taking Ellie to school or gardening, she was described as a quiet woman who kept to herself. And there's nothing wrong with keeping to yourself.
No, not at all.
A lot of people enjoy spending time by themselves. And I am one of those people. I'm totally fine to be by myself.
Yeah.
My wife's the complete opposite. She does not like to be alone. She wants people around her at all times. I like that too, but I need my personal space sometimes.
Yeah, I'm more like you. I definitely can be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a sharer.
You are not.
Or
a pair of checks. A picker up of tabs. Let me go through the list.
He made me snort.
Former lead investigator Captain Adam Taylor told KCTV5 she was never employed. She had never had a credit card. She had only been to the dentist twice, to the doctor once, when Ellie was born.
It's kind of concerning.
It is. Obviously it's good to go to the dentist. You don't want your teeth to fall out. Doctors are important when you get sick and things like that. But again, what are the reasons for that?
I mean, you can, on the surface, you can say, you can read into it as controlling. Some signs of being controlled.
But you said it, right? We, at this point, would be reading that in. Ellie would later tell detectives that Angela was very protective of her. Ellie also described Angela as a tiger mom. A tiger mom is a term used to describe mothers who push their children to high levels of achievement, but can be strict and demanding while doing so. Angela pushed Ellie to achieve academic excellence. Ellie could play piano, and she could speak Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. She graduated high school with the highest honors.
That's really impressive.
Well, it is. And I think there's a huge debate among people. A lot of people want the best for their kids. But where's that line between, pushing them too hard? You hear about like these moms and dads who go a little too far with their kids when it comes to either athletics or academics. Heck, there's the mom that tried to kill her daughter's cheerleader rival.
Oh, yeah, the competition.
His mom. Yeah, There's a new documentary out on that I watched the other day. I mean, that's an old story, but that is obviously taking it very, very far. Ellie told the Kansas City Star, I had a pretty happy childhood. I was her life, basically. Ellie said that her life in the Prairie Village bubble was ideal. Her parents sometimes argued, but they were never violent. She did say that she believed her mother was prone to depression or bipolar disorder.
Which could add to her wanting to be isolated.
Could. I do feel like we're talking about bipolar disorder a lot. But, it is a thing that many people struggle with. So is it that strange that depression and or bipolar disorder would come up in so many different cases that we do? And I would say no. It's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely.
Ellie decided to attend the University of Kansas, which caused tension with her mother. Angela didn't want her to leave home. Angela's niece, Michelle, told KCTV5 Angela had been struggling a lot with Ellie's growing independence.
Well, Ellie did say she was her mom's world. And I'm sure her mom was like, if you go away to college, what am I going to do?
Yeah. No, I can see it. I think I've been pretty open about it. My wife and I both struggled when each one of our kids went off to college. And I would say we were pretty far from being tiger moms and dads. Yeah. But, your kids, to different degrees, are your world.
Right.
And, that adjustment without them is tough. Now, if they are your whole world, right? If everything you have is wrapped up, your identity, your sense of self-worth, all of that is wrapped up in your child, okay, that's going to be even tougher.
Yeah.
But the thought I had was, what did she think was going to happen? She was pushing her to such great heights of academic excellence, did she not think she was going to go off to college?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you wanted, right?
Right. That's what you pushed for. Maybe she thought she was going to graduate high school with honors and be, so smart, and then live at home and attend a school closer to home. But most kids, if they have the opportunity, they choose to, go after it. And I'm sure she probably got scholarships and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
In the spring of 2019, Ellie went on a study abroad trip to Italy without telling her mother. She returned home on June 15, 2019, and planned to work a summer job. Ellie last saw Angela on June 20th, 2019. They got into a heated argument that day. Ellie told the Kansas City Star that it was possible her trip abroad triggered something for her mother, emotionally or psychologically.
I would say probably so. If you went away to Europe and didn't tell your mom, and then you come home, she probably wants to have a conversation about that.
Well, and I could see why maybe she struggled more than others, right?
Yeah.
If she's so wrapped up in her daughter, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, but could it be unhealthy at a certain point? And I think the answer to that question is probably yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Ellie said, I think she might have been depressed or bipolar or whatever was going on. One day she lashed out at me. Angela said she wanted Ellie to be more productive. The argument escalated, and Angela grabbed some of Ellie's things and told her to leave the house. Ellie recalled that had never happened before. She was like, well, you can just leave now. And this was the last time Ellie saw her mother.
You hear a conversation like that, and you think, well, maybe the bipolar is coming into play.
Maybe. Ellie drove away from the house. She was upset, but she thought everything would blow over in a few hours. She went to her former high school parking lot and just cried. Her boyfriend, Zach Krause, picked her up, and she slept at his grandparents' home that night. She would later move in with his parents. The next day, Jeff texted Ellie, asking to talk about Angela. He wanted to meet in person, but Ellie had plans. He texted her again the following day and said Angela had been committed to a mental health facility against her will due to a mental breakdown. He tricked her into going by taking her to a grocery store parking lot. Ellie shared a screenshot of their text with the Kansas City Star. Ellie asked, how did you take her away? And Jeff responded, we met the mental health people in the store parking lot, and it was a struggle, better than trying to pry her out of the house. And she always looks good going out, so she didn't have the embarrassment of house clothes or an untidy house. Jeff sent a second text that said, oh, don't let anyone know about Mom, including your relatives, until I know more about her condition. Now, Ellie wanted to visit her mom. She wanted to bring her some clothes, food, makeup, but her dad refused to tell her where Angela was, only saying she was down south somewhere.
So at first you think, okay, she got in a big fight with her daughter, said some things. Maybe it escalated after her daughter left and her and Jeff had some words, and maybe Jeff thought, oh, you need to see somebody.
Like he recognized that she was having a mental breakdown or something like that.
Yeah. So it's up to that point, I guess you could believe it.
Well, I think if you're Ellie, it might have been even more believable given the fact that her mom had done something she'd never done before. She'd kicked her out of the house, right? We just got done talking a lot about how Ellie was her whole world, and she's saying, hey, get your clothes and get out. That doesn't seem like something her mom would do.
But where I have a problem with it is now Ellie wants to see her mom, and he's not telling her where she's located. And then he's just saying, well, she's somewhere south.
Yeah. I mean, I think not only you, anybody would have a problem with that. Okay, Mom and I got in a fight. Now you're saying she had a mental breakdown. I want to go see her. I'm worried about her.
Yeah.
And you're not telling me where she is.
And do they really come and pick you up in a parking lot?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could stage something like that or not.
And if you really are concerned about your loved one's well-being, do you really care what she looks like when she's home versus going out and what the house looks like? It's a weird statement.
Yeah, I thought it was a weird statement too, but I get it. There are a lot of people who don't want to leave the house without looking their best. I myself am not one of those people.
You look the same way as if you...
Whether I just rolled out of bed or I'm going to a fancy dent. No, I'm just kidding. Jeff claimed that Angela got physical with him. Per KCTV5, Ellie trusted her father. He explained that he didn't want her to know Angela's location because he didn't want her to visit until she was doing better. And you kind of mentioned it, but this did seem reasonable to Ellie, and she respected his request not to tell the rest of the family. I mean, this is your dad.
Yeah.
Most people, if your dad tells you something, you don't think that he's lying to you or trying to get over on you or hiding some big secret.
Yeah, you're going to think, okay, dad knows what's best, so I'll go along with what dad wants.
A few weeks later, on July 16th, 2019, Jeff contacted Ellie and asked to meet in person. They met at her boyfriend's family's home late that night. Jeff told Ellie that Angela died of a stroke at the mental health facility, and the staff found her dead in the morning. Angela's family later noted that Jeff used the words Angela died of a stroke rather than saying your mother died of a stroke.
Does sound strange hearing it that way.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of me. If I was talking to my daughters about anything involving their mom, I would never use my wife's first name. It would always be, your mom's doing this, your mom's doing that. I would never use my wife's first name. It would just sound weird.
Yeah.
Ellie recalled to the Kansas City Star, he pulls up to Zach's house. He says Angela died of a stroke. I remember the world going blurry. I fell to my knees on the driveway. I couldn't even cry. I had no words. He went over and told Zach, and then he left. I was sitting there in disbelief, and he just left. It was horrible. Losing my mom has always been my worst nightmare.
Why would he just leave?
Yeah, that really jumped out at me as well. So you're not going to stay and console your daughter?
Why'd you even have to go meet her? Why didn't you just tell her over the phone if that's what you were going to do?
It would have been just about the same level of coldness, I would think.
Yeah.
The next day, the Krause family invited Jeff to their home so he wouldn't be alone. This was their first time officially meeting him. Sarah Krause recalled, he seemed in shock. He seemed very quiet and didn't talk a lot, and his eyes were down. Sarah asked Jeff if there would be a funeral or memorial. Jeff said no. She offered to write an obituary, but Jeff never followed up with her. The family thought they shouldn't judge how Jeff was grieving.
Well, that's fair.
It is.
Yeah, you never know how somebody handles this.
Well, it's come up in so many stories, right? How does someone grieve? How do they handle the grieving process? It can vary from person to person. But I get what Sarah is saying. We don't feel as though we should judge Jeff. First of all, we're not in his shoes. But secondly, we don't even know this guy. So is this how he would normally act? We don't know. Ellie tried not to press her father too much, but she did ask if an autopsy would be performed. Jeff didn't answer her. Ellie was confused, but this was her first experience with a close family member's death. She was unsure about the timing and planning of funerals, and she was still in shock. Ellie knew that her mom wanted her ashes to be sent back to China, but that was all. Jeff again asked her not to tell the rest of the family, but Ellie did tell her coworkers, friends, and teachers about her mother's death. Every time she brought up a funeral, Jeff put her off.
All very bizarre.
Very bizarre.
Like, why wouldn't you want her relatives to know? And why wouldn't you want to talk about a funeral? And what are we doing with mom's body?
Well, unfortunately, Gibbs, you and I have both lost a number of family members in the last, 4 or 5 years. And you know what it's like. The family all rallies together. A lot of times it's the family who all goes to the funeral home to make the arrangements. You need the support.
Absolutely.
So to me, this seems so far removed from anything that I'm used to.
And her relatives deserve to know because she was close with her family. It wasn't like she didn't want anything to do with her family.
Yeah. She might have been isolating herself, but she was very close, at least at some points in her life, with a number of her family members. Ellie didn't want to keep her mother's death a secret, but Jeff said he needed time to process and would tell everyone when he was ready. So here's the one thing I'm getting from Jeff. Ellie's got a lot of concerns, and rightfully so. Sure. None of this seems right.
Right.
And I think she's picking up on all of that. But Jeff has an answer. Now, it might not be a great answer, but he has an answer for everything. Right? I'll do it. I need time to grieve. I need time to process this. Ellie told the Kansas City Star, people are like, did you not ask questions for the next 8 months? Of course I asked questions, like every single weekend or whenever I went over there or saw him, I would ask questions, but he wouldn't answer anything about mom. So either he had an answer for everything, or if he didn't have the answer, he just wouldn't answer at all.
Which is adding to the bizarreness.
Well, and I think if you're Ellie, in the beginning, you're grieving, you're in shock, but as the months go by, it had to have been getting stranger and stranger. I mean, whether you have that much experience with funerals or not, you know they don't take 8 months. They happen fairly quickly, and there's a reason for that. So by February 2020, Ellie could no longer handle the burden of keeping her mother's death a secret from her family. She reached out to her Aunt Catherine for the first time in 3 years to break the news. Ellie told the Star, I couldn't even say anything like for a minute. I was crying the whole time. I finally got the words out. My mom has died. Her aunt thought Angela had just passed away, but Ellie said, no, this happened back in July. And obviously, Gibbs, her family was in shock.
Yeah.
They'd been trying to contact Angela about another family member's upcoming wedding, but received no response from her. They assumed she was being temperamental. Michelle told the Star, I think she just kind of thought that it was Angela's nature sometimes, that if she didn't feel like talking, she wasn't going to pick up. Michelle and the family asked Ellie about a death certificate to see the date and cause of death. Ellie went to Topeka to try to obtain the death certificate, but there wasn't one. She told People magazine in a later interview, the clerk spent the longest time looking for it. Finally, she came back and said, I'm sorry, there's no death certificate on record for your mother. Ellie said, my stomach just sank. I've never had a worse feeling in my life. That's when all the red flags all shot up at once. And I get that. There's got to be red flags along the way.
Right.
But this has to be like full 5-alarm fire.
Yeah. Like the confirmation of all red flags.
Yeah, everything's collapsed in on itself.
Yeah.
How is my mother dead when there's no death certificate? Now, I feel like my father's been lying to me this whole time.
Yeah. You don't know what the hell happened to your mom. And now you're like, and what is my dad doing? Or what did my dad do?
So Ellie confronted her dad. She asked him where Angela died. He told her she died in Kansas. Ellie then told him she went to Topeka to try to obtain a death certificate, and there wasn't one. Jeff told her he had to go home to look up the location of Angela's death.
All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if your wife was taken to an institution and then later died, are you telling me you don't know where that was?
Nothing adds up.
No.
And Ellie knew that he was lying to her. She asked where Angela's ashes were, and he told her they were at home. She asked her father what hospital Angela died at, and he just stared into space. I mean, back to your point, Gibbs, this is a major life event. This isn't some, what happened 3 years ago last Tuesday. This is something that you're going to remember very well because it's traumatic and it's a big thing.
There's no good answer on why you don't know what happened and where it happened at unless you're lying.
Well, and I think that's what Ellie thought at this point. Ellie reported her mother missing on February 18th, 2020. The police came to Jeff's home to question him about his wife's disappearance and supposed death. Jeff completely changed his story. According to Michelle, all of a sudden, he changed his story and said that Angela was alive and gone for a 3-day weekend with friends. He claimed he didn't know where Angela was or how to reach her. Captain Taylor told KCTV5 officers were kind of trying to clarify. Well, why would the family say that she's dead? And he says, I don't know. That's weird. That is weird, Jeff, except that's what you've told your daughter.
Yeah.
Who then relayed it to other family members.
So at this point, are you saying that your daughter's lying? Because that's what he's telling. Basically, he's saying his daughter's lying.
Yes. I didn't tell her that. I don't know where anybody got that. But the new story is that she's gone on a 3-day weekend. Okay, how's he think that story's going to end up? What's going to happen when the 3 days comes and goes and she doesn't come back?
Yeah.
But I don't know if people think that far ahead or in the moment, you're caught, you're flustered, you're just saying whatever, not thinking about the future ramifications, right, of the lie that you're now telling. Officers returned the following day to ask more questions. This time, Jeff mentioned that there had been several times when Angela left on her own and didn't return for several days. And after that, he stopped talking to the police. According to Captain Taylor, he said, before we could introduce ourselves or even say hi, he had a flannel shirt on and he had a pocket. He pulled out a card and he handed it to us and said, you can contact my attorney. I'm not saying anything.
Well, that's called being prepared.
Well, yes. And why is he prepared? Because he knows he's in deep, what? He knows that he's been lying. It's catching up to him. And just by telling those lies, he's going to be suspect number one.
Of course, yeah.
So he doesn't want to say anything to the police.
But you know me, that's great advice.
Well, it is. I hate to say it, but it is. Jeffrey hired criminal defense attorney Paul Cramp, who represented killer Edwin R. Hall in his high-profile court proceedings for the 2007 murder of Kelsey Ann Smith. Officers spoke to different family members to try to figure out what was going on. They heard different stories from different people. And you know why that would happen? Well, because when a bunch of lies are told, even sometimes when true stories are told, people change the stories as they're telling multiple people, right? It's like a game of telephone.
Right.
But when you're telling a bunch of lies, especially if you're telling different lies to different people, well, the police are going to hear all kinds of strange things. Investigators were dealing with a complete lack of evidence leading to Angela's whereabouts. Her license, passport, purse, phone, and car keys were all left behind.
Makes it hard to track somebody.
Well, it does, but also if she had been committed and if she had died at some type of facility, that might make sense that she wouldn't have taken any of those things. Where it doesn't make sense, where it never makes sense is, the notion that someone just decides to leave because they need time to themselves or they're going to leave forever and start a new life. Leaving a lot of that stuff behind just doesn't make sense.
Right. I think you're going to probably need some of that.
The police learned that there were no records of Angela being committed to any mental health facility, and there was no evidence of, any type of travel on her part.
Well, that doesn't look good for the husband.
No, it looks like he's not telling the truth. There was also no death certificate to be found in the entire United States. So I get it. Ellie couldn't find one in Kansas. Now they took it a step further. We're going to check the whole U.S. And there was no death certificate. So what are the police to think? Number one, she was not committed to any type of mental health facility, and she's not dead, at least in the manner that Jeff said she died.
Yes. But you also don't know where she is if she's alive.
No, you don't. But I think as an investigator, you have to be thinking, if something bad happened to her, we got to look at this Jeff guy.
Yeah.
There was seemingly no evidence proving Angela was dead or alive. On March 11, 2020, the police executed search warrants on 2 properties. The first was Angela's home on Tomahawk Drive in Prairie Village. The local police got help from the FBI when searching the Green family home. Cadaver dogs were brought in, but the search yielded no significant results. According to Ellie Green, the police found an urn during the March searches, but the urn had been purchased recently and contained no ashes.
Almost like trying to cover himself.
Well, you said she's dead. You said she died. Ellie knew that she wanted to be cremated.
And he told Ellie that he had the ashes.
Yep. Meaning she'd already been cremated.
Right.
Well, you better get an urn.
Find something to put in it.
The second property was a 25-acre lot Jeff used to store collectible cars and parts. Over 125 officers searched this area, and a dive team searched the pond on the lot, but found nothing. All right, 25 acres. You got a lot of cars. You've got a pond. It's quite a bit to search, I imagine. It also sounds like it could be a good place to hide a body.
Sounds like a really good place.
One issue was that during the months Angela was missing, a new courthouse was being built in Johnson County, and the dirt from the construction site was brought to the lot Jeff was renting.
Well, that would be a convenient site then. All that dirt coming in?
Be even easier to hide a body because pretty tough to find an area of disturbed dirt when there's just dirt everywhere.
Right.
New dirt.
And depending on how much dirt was brought in, it can make it difficult for a dog to get a scent.
Yeah, or maybe even that ground penetrating radar. Again, we don't know how much dirt. It could have been huge mounds. Captain Adam Taylor told KCTV5, and so there was like 30 feet of dirt that was compounded from the ground up. There could be all sorts of different places during that 8 months' time that somebody could have been out there. 30 feet.
Yeah.
That's a big mound of dirt.
That really is.
And how many was there? How big was it? Did he know where this dirt was going to be dumped and felt like he could, dig a hole, cover the hole up, the dirt's coming in, nobody's going to find this hole?
Yeah, 30 feet high, compacted along the way.
Just don't know. Angela Green's case is under active investigation. Jeff Green has never been charged in connection to his wife's disappearance. And to be honest with you, Gibbs, it really doesn't surprise me. I don't know, other than a suspicion, what the police really have on Jeff Green.
No, because what he told them is different from what he told his daughter, but what he told his daughter is just hearsay between him and his daughter. So the police can only really go off of what Jeff told them.
Or evidence they collect, but I don't think they found much. And, let's not forget what he did in kind of putting Ellie off. ultimately led to the police not really getting involved for quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
Almost a year, I think.
Yeah, over 8 months. That's a long time.
In 2020, Ellie told the Kansas City Star, "I don't believe she's alive anymore." She said she believes her father knows more than he has said. And I understand why she would feel both of those things. Her mom's not going to contact her. She's just going to up and leave. She doesn't have her car, her passport, or wallet. She's got no money. I'm assuming they know she hasn't accessed any bank accounts.
Yeah.
And how could you not think that your father knows more when you've already caught him in how many different lies? It was lie upon lie upon lie.
Right.
And these are not little lies. These are not little white lies, right? That you might tell to spare someone's feelings. Yeah, honey, that casserole you made was outstanding. It's not that type of lie.
No, it's not.
This is life-shattering type of stuff.
This is the mother of your daughter. You're going to lie to her about it?
Yeah, first of all, how could a guy do that? But then second of all, once it comes out, once somebody discovers those lies, how can you trust that person anymore at all? And I think the answer is you can't.
Right.
The FBI and Prairie Village Police Department announced that investigators would recanvass Angela's neighborhood on May 2nd, 2022, and conduct interviews. Captain Adam Taylor told KCTV5 he believes someone in the family has information about Angela's disappearance, saying, "I think someone in the family knows something, and for some reason they're scared to share it. As these years pass and nothing's happening, that has to be eating somebody else up as well." Well, when he says family, does he mean Jeff Green or other family? And I would say this, obviously we have no idea what Jeff has done or hasn't done.
Right.
He's not been convicted of anything. He hasn't even been charged of anything.
No.
If he did do something, is it really eating him up? And I would say, I don't know. Some people are just wired a little differently. They can do things that would cause the rest of us to not be able to sleep or eat, and it would just eat us all up. And it doesn't bother them at all. They don't lose a minute's sleep.
No. Sometimes they can just justify why or whatever happened.
Yeah. The Prairie Village Police Department has reached out to Jeff's lawyer, but have not received a comment from him. Captain Taylor was quoted as saying in a September 2024 article, "He has let us talk and he'll sit there and listen. And then after a while, we'll talk as much as we can to get him to kind of understand that we're not going to stop this investigation. We're continuing with the investigation. We're going to gather as much evidence as we can." And then he'll say, "Okay, have a good day." And then he'll turn around and walk away.
Well, you know what? If he doesn't talk, if he doesn't add anything to the conversation, it makes it very hard for the police to continue with their investigation, right? I mean, they can only collect what they can. They're trying to see if they can get a response out of him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as much as I hate to say it, if he did have something to do with Angela's disappearance, the one thing that will sink him is opening his mouth.
Yeah.
He has no benefit from opening his mouth whatsoever. It just doesn't behoove him at all.
And I'm sure his attorneys have told him that.
Yeah. You can sit there and listen all you want. And you might want to. You might want to know what they know.
Right.
Michelle told KCTV5, "I don't believe my aunt is still alive. No one does. We don't believe she's still alive, so we're trying to find her remains." And I do feel like at a certain point, Gibbs, and a lot of these unsolved cases that we do, people are holding out hope, family members, friends, but at a certain point, it does seem that, people are a little more resigned as the years go by that, something's happened to my loved one. Well, now we would still really like to figure out where they are. Even if they're dead, just so we can, bring their remains home and bury them.
At least give us that.
On March 14, 2024, private investigator Steve Rich announced he was offering a $50,000 reward for the location of missing Prairie Village resident Angela Green, or the recovery and positive identification of her remains. Ridge has been working with Angela's family for over 3 years and has interviewed dozens of family, neighbors, and friends. He doubled the $25,000 reward, first offered in 2023. And I would say it's a great move. Upping the reward can only enhance the chances that someone might come forward. I think the main issue is that if Jeff Green is responsible for the disappearance of Angela Green, there's probably no amount of money that's going to make him come forward.
No.
Because he wouldn't be able to spend the money.
Well, that's true.
But if there's someone else who was involved or knows about it at a certain point, there might be a dollar amount that would cause that person to roll over. Ridge stated with the reward offer per KCTV5, daughter Ellie Green, her cousin Michelle, and Prairie Village Police lead detective Sergeant Adam Taylor are all very supportive of this increased reward. As a potential means of cracking this case, I'm fully confident that more than one person knows exactly what happened to Angela and where her remains likely were placed. Eventually, someone will talk. My goal is to accelerate discovering the truth. This has been 5 years of living hell for Angela's loving family. And yeah, I agree with everything he says. And some of that is contingent on more than one person knowing exactly what happened. And I think we talk about that in a lot of cases. Ellie Green lives in Colorado and has taken a step back from speaking to the media. She's trying to regain a normal life and has asked for privacy.
Hey, I get that.
I get that too. I mean, you heard Taylor talk about it. He's right. She's been through living hell. She's lied to by her dad. She has no idea what happened to her mom. And she's trying to get on with her life. It doesn't mean she's forgotten about her mom, I'm sure. But at a certain point, you still have to lead your life.
Right.
Angela's niece, Michelle, is a corporate attorney in New York City and has taken over talking to the police and media. Michelle created a TikTok profile at MISHGUO with several viral videos about the case. She also started a GoFundMe page called Justice for Angela Green. Ellie issued a statement through her cousin published by the Kansas City Star saying that she's been able to pick herself back up again and even recently got a promotion at work. And, I like to hear about things like that. I mean, I feel for this woman. And she has been through a lot.
Right.
But it does sound like she's doing as well as she can be doing. She said her cousin Michelle is the most important person in her life and added, after I told her that I couldn't do this anymore because it was destroying me mentally, she supported my decision 100%. She's the one who's been leading the investigation, spending hours and hours of her time that I'm not even aware of because that's just the kind of person she is.
Sounds pretty awesome.
It does sound pretty awesome. The one thing that Ellie talked about that we probably don't talk about enough is what type of mental toll does something like this take on a person?
Could imagine how heavy that would be.
No. I mean, we talk about mental health a lot.
We do.
Having good mental health is important. I could see a scenario like this. Feeling betrayed by your father, missing your mother and having no idea where she is, it could really take a toll on your mental health, especially when and if you're working, your hands to the bone to try to find out what happened. At a certain point, you might just need to take a step back.
Yeah.
And it sounds like what happened.
Got to give yourself a little rest.
It's been over 5 years since Angela Green was last seen, as we talked about. There's really no evidence proving she's alive or dead. The police have not announced the suspect or person of interest in the investigation. Now, I get it. They haven't announced it. I don't know how in the world Jeff Green can't be on their radar as, at the very least, a person of interest. Now, they may not want to come out and say that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to be careful.
He already doesn't want to talk to him. It's not going to make things any better to come out and say, yeah, he's our number one suspect, or he's our main person of interest, or, anything like that. At the time of her disappearance, Angela Green was 51 years old. She's described as an Asian female, 5'9", 116 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She was known to drive a silver 2010 Ford Escape. Anyone with information about Angela Green can call the Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers Tips Hotline at 816-474-TIPS or the Prairie Village Police Department at 913-642-6868. So as we wrap this one up, Gibbs, this is a little bit of a different missing persons case for me because you have that component of Jeff Green allegedly telling, a series of lies.
Yeah.
To his daughter, to different people, some to investigators. And you just really can't, in your mind, at least I can't, figure out why a person would do that unless there was something they were trying to cover up.
I mean, if he did do something, how terrible that is. But also toying with your daughter's emotions
and mental stability.
Yeah. How can you do that and feel good about it?
Well, I'm not accusing him of anything, but I would say, a person can do it if they're trying to cover up something heinous that they did and they feel like they have no other choice but to lie.
Yeah. I mean, he could say, well, I never told her that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're going to say she's lying. So
a person who has no reason in the world to lie.
Exactly.
Would gain nothing from lying. It's pretty strange.
Yeah.
It's pretty strange. And I think that's why, when you look online about this case, obviously what you see is a lot of people pointing the finger at Jeff Green.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because the things that, he is alleged to have said and done, they make him look suspect.
And the fact that he's not talking, and that's because that's what his attorney told him to do.
But people still view it, right or wrong, as you're guilty.
Yeah. If you have nothing to hide, why aren't you talking? Well, there's reasons why.
There is reasons why, but still, people are always going to view that as, well, you're withholding something. You're shady. There's something more that you're not telling us. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday they'll crack this one, and I would really love to know.
Yeah, same here.
But that's it for our episode on Angela Green. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Kim from Salt Lake City, Utah. I have been listening to your podcast since the beginning of 2019. You guys are my favorite podcast ever. I also listen to True Crime Unsolved. I am Team TCAT. And I just want to let you know that tripping balls is something that Utahns say quite often. So it's a very popular phrase here in Utah. So keep tripping balls and stay safe and keep your head on the swivel.
Tripping balls.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from people who said they've never heard of that. I've heard of people that say, a lot of people say it from around where they are. Maybe it's a regional thing. Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. Did you know there's a new generation that starts this year?
I think I heard that.
Beta. They're calling it beta.
What's next? Alpha?
No,
beta,
because
alpha, beta.
Isn't
alpha first?
Alpha before beta?
Oh, so what comes after beta?
I don't know.
Yeah, see, we don't know. Well, I wonder how long the span of betas will be.
Yeah, I don't know how they determine that. Because it doesn't seem to be a predetermined, like it's different every time,
so
I think.
Beta's being born this year, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If you're born this year, then you're starting the beta generation, I guess.
I wonder if we'll ever have a beta listener.
I don't know if we'll be on that long.
Hi, hope you guys both had a happy new year. My name is Sandra. I've called a couple times. I just finished the episode on Carrie Farber, and I felt a little called out because you guys were talking about her or David driving an hour to go see Carrie, and I'm currently driving 3 hours to go see my boyfriend. And then I finished that episode on my 3-hour drive, so now I'm listening to the Matt Trapper episode, and I just wanted to call to say, initially when you were discussing the episode and the little preview that you do on True Crime All the Time for this T-Cat Unsolved episode, I thought you had said this man had been killed by a possum, and I thought that was amazing, and then was confused and thought, well, maybe it was like bait, and they wanted to seem like it was a possum, and there's just no one snitching on each other, but I'm now listening to the episode, and I realized it was a posse, which is, I guess, still cool, or as you guys said, like Old West style, but not as cool as a possum killing a guy and serving justice. So, anyway, hope you guys both had a happy new year, happy holidays. Keep your own time ticking and keep your head on a swivel. Thank you for all you do.
Well, we are working on that possum case.
Yeah, I will have to find a case where somebody is killed by a possum.
Yeah.
Or maybe a posse of possums.
Ooh, a posse of possums.
If I can find that, that would bring us full circle.
Is that kind of like a murder of crows?
Yeah.
Is that what they call that? A bunch of crows? A murder?
I think so. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm right.
I am
I'm
shocked.
Mensa.
I am shocked that you know that.
Mensa,
I'm just going to throw that out there. I am shocked beyond belief.
Not only Mensa, I'm top level Mensa.
Like double secret probation?
Yeah.
Mensa?
Top echelon.
Okay.
Yeah. Pay extra for that.
You pay extra.
You don't earn it. You just have to pay more.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
And Gibby.
Stay safe and keep your own time ticking.